Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a couple days since I've made a video and I'm ready to get started again. So in our last unit we covered some of the geometry topics that I think are important for the task test. I think if you were able to understand most of what we went through in those videos, then you should be good as far as the geometry is concerned for the high school equivalency test. So I want to take a minute and just talk about where we're going from here. All right. So really, I'm making these videos for the students who were in my class right before we all got basically quarantined. And that particular class had went through a unit on algebra, basically my first unit of algebra, which is talking about what algebra is, expressions, equations, multi-step equations. We did a lot of word problems and tried to, really make algebra something that you do understand is part of life. Tried to connect the dots a little bit. We then moved to geometry, which we had kind of just started before the spring break and then the stay-at-home orders. So that's where I picked up on my video series where we were, and now it's time for the second unit of algebra. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now the second unit of algebra involves a lot of graphing, and we're still going to be talking about variables and using variables, but now we're going to be kind of shifting to more than one variable. But the starting point is really talking about the coordinate grid. Okay, so the coordinate grid is what this video is going to be about. Coordinate grid is basically two number lines stacked on each other, perpendicular, like this. Okay, and so we have a horizontal number line. We call that the x-axis. Okay, and if you remember from our earlier unit in algebra, in the number line, there is a negative side as well as a positive side. Really, 0 is the center. And so as we're writing the x-axis out, 0 is going to be in the center. And as we move to the right, these are our positive numbers. Okay, and as we move to the left of 0 are our negative numbers. Okay, those lines go forever, both ways. So that's the first number line. The second number line is vertical, and it is stacked going through the center of the x-axis. Okay, let's see if I can draw that. Okay, not really. Oh, geez. Okay, good enough. That's ugly. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at that number line. That is called the y-axis. Okay, so we have the x-axis and we have the y-axis. Again, the y-axis has a 0 in the same spot as the x-axis. This actually has a name, this point. It's called 0, 0, the origin. Okay, it's 0 on both number lines. It's called the origin. But as far as the y-axis is concerned, of course, if we go up from 0, there are our positive numbers. And as we go down, these are our negative numbers. Okay, so this is called a coordinate grid. It is a way that we can kind of show relationships between two things. It's two-dimensional, it's flat, but we have width and height. And what makes this unique is that we can locate any spot on the grid using numbers from each number line, okay? And so, for instance, if I pick a spot right here, I can label that, and it has a unique, basically think about like GPS. It has a unique signature by comparing where that dot or where that spot falls on each number line, okay? And so basically, if we kind of look at each number line, it's going to fall on a number. So X comes before Y, right? So we always say the spot on the X-axis first, and then the spot on the Y-axis. This is called a coordinate, okay? It can be called an ordered pair, but it takes two numbers where it falls on both number lines to locate that point. And so we put it in parentheses, starting with where it falls on the X. So this spot falls on 2 on the X and 4 on the Y. We separate that with a comma. So the ordered pair for that point would be 2, 4. The coordinate would be 2, 4. 2 on the X, 4 on the Y. Okay? And so there's no other place called 2, 4 here. That's the only spot. Okay, let's look at another one. How about here? Okay, so take a look at that. Decide what you think the coordinate is. You can pause it if you want. Should be fairly quick. Again, where does it fall on the X? It falls on -5. Where does it fall on the Y? 1. So -5, 1 would be the coordinate for that point. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to put a couple other points on here, and then you pause the screen and see if you can figure out what the coordinate is for that point. Okay, hopefully you can see those. I know it's not perfect, but I think you can probably figure. All right, I think you can pretty much figure where those fall. So again, you locate the point and see where it falls on the X and where it falls on the Y. Okay, so go ahead and pause your screen. Try and figure out what those three coordinates are. Okay, all right, then come back. All right, so hopefully you've got those. We're going to start here with the coordinates of this. On the X is a -3, and on the Y is -4. Okay, let's go to this point. On the X, it's a +2, and on the Y, it's a -2. And then finally this one, these that fall right on the axis sometimes give people trouble. So just remember X, Y. X comes before Y. Where does it fall on the X? Where does it fall on the Y? So this point falls on the X at 5. On the Y, 0. Okay? So that's a little bit about the coordinate grid. It's got an X-axis that's horizontal, a Y-axis that is vertical. They cross at the origin. Let me write that out for you. They cross at the origin, which is 0, 0. It is a point. And it creates this grid where you can locate points using the numbers on each number line. Okay, so let's go through a little bit of vocabulary as well. So I'm going to erase these. What you may notice when we cross these is that they basically split the space into 4 sections. Okay, those are given names. They're called quadrants. Quad means 4, quad. So this is quadrant 1. And really, if we're talking about real life, most things happen in coordinate 1. Okay, so anytime you see a graph comparing 2 things, usually it's a graph like this. Okay, something like this. And if you look at it, this shape is really this quadrant. So this is called quadrant 1. It's the most real life quadrant. Okay. So this is quadrant 1, and then we're just going to go counterclockwise from there. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's a little bit about the vocabulary. In case you're asked about quadrants or the origin or the axis. Okay. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to put a few points on here. I'm going to give you the coordinates, and I want you to think about where they would go on the grid. It's kind of backwards of what we did just a minute ago, okay? So how about 3, -1, let's not do -6, -4, 3, 1, -5, and how about 0, 2? Okay, 3, -1, -4, 3, 1, -5, and 0, 2. Even if you're watching this on your phone, you don't have a way to put this on, maybe just look and see where on the screen you would think you would put that point, okay, or mentally. If you have some graph paper at home, graph paper is great for working through this. You can make your own grids, just like I did here. Or if you just have some scrap paper, just generally pull this out, okay, or write this down, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just working here. All right, so go ahead and pause your screen, decide where you think each of these would be. Let's just go ahead and give them names, A, B, C, and D, okay? So pause your screen, figure out where you think they're gonna go, and then come back. All right, so A is 3, -1. Remember, our first number is the X, where it falls on the X, and the second number is where it falls on the Y. So a lot of times when I'm putting points on, I just start at the origin, and then I go to the number for X, and from there I go up or down, okay? So when I see 3, 1, I start here, I go over to 3 on the X, and then I need to go to -1 on the Y, which is actually down. Move this 3 down here. Okay, so there would be point A. So, point A, over 3, down 1. B, -4, +3. Again, I start here, I go to -4 on the X, then I move up or down 3. So it's positive, which means I go up 3. I didn't think about this when I wrote these down. All right, so here is my spot for B. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, spot B. 1, -5 is C. Start at the center, I move over 1. Now I'm going down 5. That would be C. And finally, 0, 2. Start in the middle, I go 0, which I'm already there, up 2. Okay, so that's a little bit about putting the points on. that's really all there is to the coordinate grid. I'm going to give you some worksheets, which we're going to go through here in just a minute. Maybe practice them. It's a little bit harder to do this than, say, some of the stuff we've been doing, because you kind of need grid paper, or if you're watching this on your phone, it's hard to make these on your own, but just do the best you can. Okay. You might just have to look at the worksheet and visually think about where you're going to put those things. Okay. So let's take a look at what I'm sending. All right. So first off, this packet, 16 pages. This is going to be your kind of main packet for at least this week. It doesn't give you a whole lot of practice on each skill, but it does give you a little bit of explanation. So first page, becoming familiar with the coordinate grid. You're welcome to read through that. It kind of goes over what I just said, gives you some examples. The next page shows you how to write these in as an ordered pair and as an XY, and then gives you some practice. Okay, you might be able to do that, you might not. Next page is putting the points on the grid. So kind of that last skill, they give you the coordinates and then have you put them on. I don't know if you can do that or not. A2, -3, start at the center, move over 2, down 3. Okay, this would be A, which is 2, -3. So just a little bit of practice there. And then really that's all. The first 3 pages is what we're covering today. This is, well, you could probably do this page actually as well, which is graphing a line. Once you put these points on, so take a look at number 1. They give you 3 points, 1, -3, boom, 3, 3, 4, 6. Once you get those on, it should make a line which you can draw, okay? There are things called the x-intercept and the y-intercept when we're talking about lines. This graphic shows you a little bit about what those are. So when you look at the line, the point that the line crosses the y is called the y-intercept. The point that crosses the x is called the x-intercept, okay? And we will talk a lot more about that in later videos. But for right now, it's not bad for you to just know that that is a thing and to look for those and try and label what those points are for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay. Next video that we're going to be talking about will be slope of a line. So once you draw that line, how can we describe it? That'll move us into the following video about linear equations and graphing them, and then just a lot of graphing stuff. Okay, that kind of pretty much takes you through this packet. That'll be the next couple videos. But first, I'd say for 4 pages, is that what it was? Yeah, the first 4 pages you should be able to do based off of today's video. If you want to continue without seeing the videos and read through the packet, be my guest, go for it. We're going to be talking about it soon enough. Okay, so you could definitely use that kind of as your guiding packet. The other 2 math pages that I sent are just kind of practice. Let's start with this one. This one gives you a little bit of vocabulary. The coordinate system or coordinate plane is used to locate points in a 2-dimensional plane. Horizontal number line called the x-axis. Vertical number line, verticals up and down, it's called the y-axis. Their intersection, where they cross, is called the origin. Okay, talks about the quadrants, so walks you through a little bit, gives you some practice. You may or may not be able to do some of this. Just if you can make a grid at home, great. If you can't, just, you know, it's not that hard, and it's not essential that you're at home working through these, just that you understand it. Okay, here's some just practice worksheets. If you could print these out, great. but you might just look at them. And then the third worksheet that I'm sending is just putting points on the grids, okay? And then describing the points that are on the grids. You could definitely do that part. You know, take a look at I. What do you think I is? So what are these coordinates? Take a look at I. As we looked a minute ago, you want to start with the X. So follow that down to the X. See that falls on point 3. Then look and see where it falls on the Y, 4. So I would have the coordinate 3, 4. Okay, G, 10, 4. F, 5, negative 4. Okay, so you could write that down on a piece of paper and then check your answer. State which quadrant or axis these points fall on. That's pretty good practice. Then here's all your answers. Okay, so this isn't really anything that's too terribly difficult. It's something that most everybody can do and understand. It's just 2 number lines and matching where points fall, okay? But from here, we build and we use this in the graphing and even some of the more advanced math that we're going to be moving to, okay? So, I mean, that's really all there is to the coordinate grid. Shorter series of videos, but as I said, we're going to build on that with the next section of videos, okay? So x-axis, y-axis, coordinate grid. These are the coordinates, x and a y. X is always first, y is second. We're going to use that a lot, okay? So let me know if something wasn't clear, if you have any questions, if you need more practice or whatever, and look forward to talking to you guys soon, okay? So hope you're having a good day. Hope that you're dealing with this stuff and we're kind of working our way out of this mess. All right. So you all take care and I'll see you later.